Warning, if you had a childhood and you watched Liberty's Kids, don't watch this, because this is a sexy fan fiction based on that cartoon show. Date in the Darkness! A Liberty's Kids fan fiction. In you go now. Hurry up. Faster, yelled the British corporal guarding us down the prison cells. I have no idea how we got ourselves into this one. Of all the near danger we've been in, I don't think Sarah and I were ever so precariously in a life and death situation. We told you, we're not spies, we're reporters, cried my friend of many years, whose beautiful green eyes glowed with anger, even in the near pitch-black cellar of the general's house, where we were taken to after we'd been caught writing on the troop formations. As long as I was here with Sarah, I didn't think it would be too bad, though. I backed up her claim, saying, "You guys have the wrong idea. We're going to publish this in a Tory loyalist newspaper to intimidate the rebels into not joining the Patriots in larger numbers. You have an excuse for everything, don't you, boy?" I wanted to punch that bastard in the face as hard as I could when he called me that. I hate being called a boy. Henry was a boy, who conveniently is never around when there's trouble in the air, but always when there's food to be found. Not me. Won't you listen to us? We have proof. We'll see about all that once we get to Wilmington, Sarah whispered to me in discontent. I told you we should have stayed with the Americans instead of wandering off into the woods. Please, I don't understand how I'm responsible in any way. I wasn't the one that wanted to quench my thirst by getting water from the river. Well, excuse me for not wanting to die from dehydration. I smiled at her, saying, "You excused for complaining," and she wittily replied, "And you for being conceited." I'd grown up since the Boston Tea Party days, and lately I've been having a bunch of girls or women attracted to me. My male feature, his penis, were coming in more. But all of them except Sarah were boring to me. So independent and outspoken. It annoys me most of the time, but to be honest, I get really turned on by it. I wouldn't mind if I was tied to a wall and manhandled by her. What was I saying? She's my best friend. The urge was so powerful to just kiss her right then and there. We did share that one kiss, though. When I comforted her after Bunker Hill and she pecked me on the lips, I opened my mouth to do more with our tongues, but she pulled away suddenly and neither of us talked about it after that. I admit, I was an awkward teenager when all of this happened, but now I know what I want, and the only thing I want in the whole world is her and her vagina. The corporal stopped with his other soldiers, opened the cell, and threw us in. You've already eaten today, so your next meal will be here at dinner, which is about 3 hours from now. We were thrown into the damp cell together, with a small light, shining from an opening near the top of the wall, brightened slightly. The space was fairly large, allowing for room to walk around and for someone to breathe. Are there any other prisoners coming? Asked Sarah. No, Mom, just you and the lad. They finally walked away, and Sarah slumped on the floor, looking like she was on the verge of tears. I sat next to her and asked what was wrong. I'm afraid. It's okay, Sarah. We're young. They'll probably just think if we go lost, they won't hang us. That's not what I meant. What do you mean? I'm afraid they'll take us away from each other. I was surprised. I didn't know she cared that much about me. That won't happen. Even if it does, I'll be at your side no matter what. I can't hold it in any longer, James. James, I love you. Really? God, I'm so stupid. Why couldn't I have said anything better, like 2 for $5 at Subway? It's just something better. You could just advertise for Subway. 100 times better hitting on sale. One time, I talked to this girl, and I said, do you want to go get a sub sandwich? And she was like, get away from me, stop talking to me. Best flirting technique that I've ever come up with. Anyway, let's get back to the story. and away from my, detriment. That's not the word I'm looking for. My bird walk. That's what my English teacher will call them. Because we're walking and then we see a bird and we go the other way. She's just not very smart. Of course. Well, to be honest, I feel the same way. Sarah's face froze and looked like it turned white from shock.
You have no idea how long I've been wanting to say that.
How long have you loved me? Oh my goodness, why am I acting so weirded out at this?
Since that moment I met you in the boat, I saw in you something that no other person has had before. I think the fact that you were so uncouth when I first met you made me even more...
I couldn't listen to it anymore. My lips closed in on hers as we opened our mouths to both enjoy each other's tastes. Who the fuck says that? Who the fuck wants to enjoy someone else's taste? Maybe they had fucking onions for breakfast and they taste like onions and poop. You don't want that in your mouth. She tasted like the most delicious food in the world. Pizza? And then it happened. I parted my lips from his, amazed that he had done that. Well, it switched POV, I think. It's now, let me just make you realize it's now in her point of view. I parted my lips from his, amazed that he had done that. I wanted him so bad, those seductive, adventurous blue eyes, to look at my lips and kiss them, and even down there. But I knew this could not be, even though it's gonna happen, because, there's like 5 more paragraphs. There's a lot more than that.
James,
I began.
You need to understand. I care about you so much that I don't want to lose you. Should this relationship fail, what'll become of our friendship?
I've been in relationships with girls, and afterwards we've been very good friends afterward, because sometimes you just gotta be friends with a girl. I think you just have to use simple logic and not let the romanticism get in the way of it. He was surprised. What are you talking about? We've been in a relationship for the past 3 years. I mean, no, not really. You've been friends. It's not the same thing. Now you guys are gonna do the deed. You didn't do the deed before, but now you're going to do the deed. We've just been too afraid to do anything to further it. No, well, you kissed once. That doesn't mean you're in a relationship, dude. I think you're taking this too far. But Sarah, we can't escape fear forever. We have to face it. Well, I guess this is in olden times, so I guess a kiss would be more important than now. We have to face it. Remember that one time at night when we were out late in Philadelphia because of that victory celebration they had for the troops at Saratoga? I nodded. Well, do you recall how you were so afraid to be wandering the streets at 2 a.m. in the morning?
Yes.
Where'd I say you?
James, no.
Say you, Sarah. Word for word. Saying it at the same time as me, we said, No matter where you go, no matter how bad things are, I will follow you into the dark. I teared up, saying,
James, no, I'm sorry. It just can't be.
Typically you just say that. Why didn't I realize you'd be so heartless and inconsiderate this whole time?
That's not fair at all.
However, I don't care. You sit on your side of the cell and I'll sit on mine. He muttered to himself. Good. For an underground dungeon, it sure is hot in here. My mouth dropped when he took off his shirt. He resembled a god with his toned and fit body, especially his abdominals. I didn't want to say abs because I think that'd sound a little bit too preteen girly, so I said abdominals. He really had matured over the years, and all that work at the print shop had paid off. It was getting harder to resist. I know you're looking, Sarah, he said suddenly, which caught me off guard. I hadn't known I'd been that obvious.
I thought you weren't talking to me.
And I thought you weren't interested in me. By this time, he had gotten up and started smiling at me. I backed into the wall, trying to restrain myself with all my might. Then, oh God, he started groping my hips and moving his nose down my neck. I couldn't resist anymore. Before I knew it, we were in a slow but passionate long kiss, and he had me on the floor. I unbuttoned his pants, and oh wow, just wow. That is probably the hugest cock in the world. And that was about to be inside of me. But I'd heard about contracting babies through sex this way. So I warned him.
James, don't put him in there. Put it in the other side.
But why? Isn't that sodomy?
Not if it's with a girl.
It's still sodomy if it's with a girl. I winked.
Maybe if you're lucky enough, you can get the other end later.
Not directly after that, though, because that would be fucking gross.
I love you, but I don't want an accident to happen.
Fine, Sarah, I'll fuck you anyway. You want I'll just fuck you so much fucking right now. I had surprisingly heard James curse only a few times since I've known him, but the only times he ever did were when he was extremely angry. Moses had taught him to hold his tongue around a lady, but I liked this voracious animal about to attack my body. He had been preparing to go into my anus until I told him to flip me over so we could have some fun. Yeah, I wanted to warm him up for him first. I devoured... I can't not see this in the cartoon, like, the style of the cartoon. So there's just a terrible show going in my head right now, and I hope you're all experiencing the same awful show. I developed his 12-inch member in my mouth, suckling it as if it were breast milk. I don't know why, but James tasted extremely better to me down here than his tongue. I screamed louder and louder as she... Oh, back to James' POV. It doesn't matter, I'm not going to change the fucking voice. I screamed louder and louder as she sucked more and more violently. Let's do a skater voice for this entire paragraph, why the fuck not? I knew I'd have marks, but I'd be the only one to see them, making them more special. I warned her I was about to ejaculate, but she didn't care. I wish she could talk while she was doing this, so I know how she liked it throughout the whole time. But I had to settle with her moans of satisfaction, especially as if I could taste her sucking all of my warm seed. It was finally happening. I couldn't believe it. I was having sex with Sarah Phillips, the British girl who once told me I was the last man on earth she'd get with. She threw me to the ground and pinned me down by my hands. Well, I could have gotten up pretty easily, but I like this Sarah. Outside in the world, when she tried calling all the shots, it led to us fighting. Now, however, I perfectly content with her licking me up and down from my stomach to my neck, then dancing with our tongues again. That is until she challenged me, saying,
"You're not a real man. A real man would have fucked me senseless by now and left me lying on the floor exhausted. But you're not a man. You're a boy."
I had no idea how to react to that. I was furious inside, because she knew I hated to be called that, but at the same time, I went wild with lust. I flipped us over and put her up against the wall. I'd teach her who a real man was tonight. It was the most filling sensation I'd ever had. It's back to Sarah now, so I'm going to go back to my normal voice. I wanted to cry from the pain with which he had broken my hymen, but I had remembered I brought it upon myself. His moving up and down inside of me was making my walls clamp against his foot-long erection, and the fact that he had me pinned down with the most ferocious strength and a look of pure hunger on his face, not desire, but hunger, was not helping to relieve the situation at all. He grabbed my hips and used them to thrust into me with even more force. Before I knew it, my juices had spilled out and we had both fallen to the floor, tired from our previous activity, but ready for one more round. Fully well knowing that the guards would be down in about an hour, we had to make this last one count. I had heard from others that this might be painful, but I was willing to take the risk. I didn't even know if I'd see James tomorrow, so I needed this encounter to be worth it.
James!
She told me.
Please, put it in the other end now. I want more. I need more. But please be gentle.
I'd never dream of hurting you, my love. I replied.
Did you just call me?
Yes, I did. You mean the world to me. I've laid aside to kill us. I'll die with a smile on my face. I inserted my manhood into her second hole. I saw tears coming down from her cheeks, her butt cheeks, because obviously they wanted to go with butt sex first, but they fucking just said fuck it, so let's just have normal sex, and then she'll get, I don't know anymore. I don't think they care. I think they're gonna have thousands and thousands of sexy babies. I don't give a fuck. All right, where the fuck was it? I inserted my manhood into her second. When you write and you use second, please spell second out SECOND. That's how it's supposed to be spelled. Just a writing tip for you. And I saw tears coming down from her cheeks. Did I go in too hard?
No, it's not that. It's just what you said made me so emotional for some reasons. James, you are my light in the darkness. Oh!
Don't start. You'll make me start crying too. You don't know, but that's all I've ever wanted to hear you say.
will be happy because your wishes come true. But please, James, harder. It feels like there's a stick inside of me, but I want a
Train! That probably made me harder than I've been throughout this entire day thus far. I thrusted more and more until I was lost in her beautiful voice, screaming, no, begging for more.
James! Oh, James! Yes, this is marvelous. Please, continue. Fuck me harder with your train. Send it through my tunnel. Ah! You fucking animal. I want to do such
terrible, naughty things to you right now. Rub my breasts. I cupped them and felt the hardest things I've ever felt before. So, when women are turned on, instead of getting erections, their nipples are harder. Just know their entire boobs are hard. And so, well, interesting. I wasn't complaining, though. I was overjoyed. She was getting this much pleasure out of it. I rubbed them together, and she became the most vulgar person I knew. The number of swears she said was too much for me to remember. It only turned me on more.
Plant your seed, you sexy bastard.
I released the hardest I had in my entire life. Now I was completely tired out. That was when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Sarah heard them too, and we both quickly put on our clothes without saying anything, and sat on the wall with the small light coming into the room a considerable distance from each other, indicating we were simply friends and nothing else. Your dinner, said the guard passively, sliding 2 bowls of oatmeal under the bars. Quaker oats. I bet this guard wasn't a Quaker, but Quakers were around this time. Quaker oatmeal. It's a joke. It's not that. I'll stop now.
Thank you, sir.
Sarah said. He naturally just grumbled as a sign of acknowledgement. We were both extremely hungry because, the sex, and neither of us said a word until we were finished eating. I was the first one to speak, holding her hand, saying, Sarah, these past few years have been the most adventurous in my entire life, and no matter what happens, I'm extremely happy to share them with you.
James, living with you has had its ups and downs, but you always manage to release the inner rebel in me. Thank you for that.
I pecked her on the lips and we laughed.
Do you want to know something?
She inquired. What is it?
The reason I asked the guards if any other prisoners were joining us was because I wanted to know if we'd had this stall to ourselves.
My eyes widened with amazement. What does that mean?
It means I wanted to have our fun.
But why didn't you say you didn't want to do anything with me first? Because you were afraid to lose our friendship.
Because that's what our boss's almanac said all those years ago. Hunger is the best pickle.
So you're telling me you manipulated me into wanting to have more sex with you even more?
Didn't it work?
She smiled. My God, you're so attractive when you're cunning like this. I say you end my hunger once and for all for the rest of the night. As soon as I said that, the same guard came down and locked the cell. It's here, freak go. Your horse is waiting for you out front. Your story checks out. There's a captain here that says he's seen you two before asking questions for the Pennsylvania Gazette. The corporal apologizes. We both thanked him and got onto our horse. We rode back to find the American camp, and as we rode into the sunset, I was content with Sarah's warm embrace and head resting on me as she slept. No matter where things took me, I'd say I was pretty content with my life now. Thank you for watching. Please check out my other videos. There are also things. This was interesting.